G'day guys, welcome back to Supercoach with DR and welcome to the Round 5 review. Firstly, hope you had a ripper of an Easter. I didn't get to catch the footy today because I was at my niece's 3rd birthday, so happy birthday Everly. Love you to the moon and back, my darling. Look, Supercoach wise though, I went from the highs last week for top 1% round score. Thought, here we go, no stop me now, coming like a freight train. Unfortunately, to the lows this week of a top 39% round score, the 21-25. That's what can happen in this game. I think part of the reason was the fact that my sort of pod combo of Chapman and Witts didn't really perform this week. And coming up against combos such as Ibowie, Gorn, lost a lot of points to those teams. And I did keep on to Paddy Cripps. A little bit controversial. Did hurt me this week because the man that I was going to bring in worked out to be a really, really solid trade in this week. I might talk about that in a minute, but very exciting this week because we do have the new DPP changes. I think a total of 50 changes coming into this week. Some really beneficial ones. I think all of a sudden in our midfields, we'll find ourselves, well, most of us anyway, with a mid forward and a defensive mid. Certainly opens up some links there, and come trading time, injuries, that's going to really, really help sides. So I'm not going to go through them in this round review, but I will go through all of the relevant DPP changes in the stock market video this week. And as usual, I'm going to get straight into it after this. So I will keep it there, I think, for the intro. Hopefully you had a much, much better round than me. Someone's talking about trading out. Who we got here? Flicking, bringing in. I'm starting Brayshaw for real. Well, that's probably a stock market question, but we'll leave those questions for a little bit later. Look, what I will do as well, it's getting really tough to get to all the comments on my round review. So what I'll do this week, anyway, because I'm on holidays, is I'll do a Q&A video. So rather than reply to all these comments through text, etc., I will do a Q&A session. So if you do have a question for me this week, pop it down here in the round review and I'll do a separate video just to get back to you. And as usual, thank you very much to all the new members. I will give you a shout out in the stock market video this week. Really appreciate that, guys. And it was great to have our first, Skype catch up with the video. I ended up losing electricity at the end of that, but I think it was a good 45 odd minute chat with a few great blokes there. So that was fantastic, guys. Great to meet you and great to speak with you as well. So I'll leave it there, guys. Let's see how the team is actually looking. There were a few blokes that let me down in my defensive line this week, but this man, Jack Crisp, certainly did not let me down because for the first time this year, we've seen him go 100 plus in consecutive weeks. So a nice 130 plus last week, a 114 to back it up. And all I was asking from Crispy this year was a flat 105 average. He's currently giving us 104.2. So can't fault him at the moment. Just want to maybe see a little bit more consistency in his game. Jaden Short, for the first time this year, he's failed us. A lowly score of 56, and to be honest, I thought his floor would be closer to around a mid-60s, but he has gone a little bit lower for us this week. I'm not too worried about him though. I do think that he will bounce back. George Hewitt, if you started with the bloke, you'd be wrapped. If you brought him in round 2, 3, 4, you'd also be wrapped because he's just going absolutely bonkers at the moment. Actually, well, it's not absolutely bonkers, is it? It's just consistency. 118 for an average, 111 over the weekend. I'll tell you what, such an underrated player. All the talk was about, Cherry's coming to Carlton, what a boom recruit he is. Oh, and George Hewitt is as well. Well, George Hewitt has been the main recruit of the year for any AFL club, in my humble opinion anyway. Not just from a Supercoach sense. He has done absolute wonders for that Carlton midfield, and you've just got to have him in your Supercoach side, plain and simple. Lockie Whitfield, 73 this week. Disappointing from a Supercoach sense, but his dream team, if you look at that score, he did go 100 plus with the 3rd highest player for the Giants in that format. So he did get enough of the ball, 25 disposals. Unfortunately, only the 2 contested possessions, and also a few turnovers as well. Wasn't the cleanest use from Lockie, unfortunately, over the weekend. So that resulted in a 73. I'm not too concerned because I thought that he did find enough of the football. Just needs to clean things up a little bit disposal-wise, and that'll be a lot closer to a 95-100 type score, I think. Heathy, what have you done to me this week, son? I was singing your praises for the last couple of weeks, and then you revert back to that round 2 game where I've got some major question marks. It was just a fumbly, nervous type game from Chapman and just didn't get used that often. Did put himself in a couple of good positions at times, but just too many clangers, too many turnovers, particularly early on the game, for him to be able to deliver a half-decent type score. So all of a sudden, that cash gen is going to be halted. My plan with Chapman anyway is to keep him for another week and assess from there. So if he gives me another similar score, like a 40 to 50 type, I'm just going to flip him the week after. If he gives me another 100 type, he reverts back to that, then I'm obviously going to keep him. There'll be more cash to be made from him. And if he gives him an 80, which is basically right on his average, then I've got some questions on my hands, and that'll depend on who the trade-in options are. I'll make my decision then. But yeah, just a real letdown, because here's a pod on my side. Heathy, bounce back next week for me, mate. Come on, Heathy. Hingy didn't play this week, and I did have McCartan in place of him. Did decide to hold Hinge because we've already seen a couple of 90s from him. I think he's a good rookie to have on field, but all of a sudden, if we can get Dacos back there, then he becomes a little bit more tradable. But maybe part of my plans, maybe not. I'm a little bit unsure what I'm going to do this week. I'll talk about those options in a minute anyway, my trading options and trade out options. Paddy McCartan did come on field this week, a 68. I'll take that. That's fine. Still got a little bit more money to make. Maybe on the chopping block soon, but he's got great job security, a pretty nice role for Supercoach. I'll take a 68 for someone that's filling in for a week anyway. DeConning a 48 didn't actually catch this match, so can't really comment, but that's probably what we expect from DeConning. Still some money to make there as well. Into the midfield, so I'll keep this one really short and simple. Jack Macrae. A, make sure that you've got him, and B, make sure that he's in your captaincy plans, whether that's your VC or your captain, straight out. He's not going to let you down, really. We've seen him let us down for the 1 week where he had that fourth quarter playing on the wing, but I think more often than not, he's going to give you a decent enough score just to lock in. If you haven't got a loophole, I think you can just straight out captain him, even if he's got an early game. I think you can do that. I think it's the safest player in the comp to captain at the moment anyway. Jack Macrae. Lachie Neale, don't really need to talk about him. We've all got him by now. 117, another 100-plus type score. He'll be one of the premium midfielders. Is he back to Lachie Neale's absolute best? I think he'll get pretty close this year, which is really, really exciting anyway. Touk Miller, I'm not excited about my man Touk at the moment. Now, don't get me wrong. I still love him. I'm not one of these people that drops someone that they love like a hot potato. I am a loyal man, but this is a bit of a concern. The big concern here is his tackle count. Basically, no tackles for the last 2 weeks. And this is something that the man prides himself on. That 107 with his usual tackle count, let's just say 6 to 8, all of a sudden is a 130-plus type score. And we're not worried whatsoever. Now, what's happening here? I'm not quite sure. Now, a possible reason I think for this, maybe the fact that Real is just so completely inside that Miller needs to almost get on his bike and make himself an option on the outside, because they're running with Real basically exclusively in the midfield. He's not really getting a rest out of there. A lot of CBAs, for example. So I think that may be hurting Miller. And that's stopping him from maybe putting as much pressure on tackle-wise, because he's thinking to himself, actually, well, I probably need to get on my bike here. You know, Rowley might be able to extract it, and then I'll sort of get a bit of a move on. That may not be the case at all. I'm not too sure. Is he carrying a little bit of an eagle? It's just unheard of, these tackling numbers or lack of tackling numbers from Touk Miller, and it is concerning me. That is the thing that is holding this man back from getting those 130-plus type scores. What do we do with him? We absolutely keep him. Do not even think about trading him out of your side. As a non-owner, though, when it comes time for your first upgrade, whether it be, I don't know what position you're in, next week, the week after, put this man at the top of your shortlist. Get him into your side, I think, because he's going to be an absolute bargain. Jump on him while you can. Look, at the same time, if he's only still giving us low hundreds, then I don't think there's any reason to jump on. Just wait till he hits some form. Maybe you see a couple of those 125 pluses from him. But I've probably banged on too much about him. But yeah, keep him if you got him. If you haven't, definitely keep him on your watch list to bring in. Cripper, you can see that obviously I kept on to him. Yeah, what was the right decision? We won't know until, yeah, at least another month or two, I think. Look, we may know earlier if he doesn't return as early as I expect, or he does himself another injury or doesn't come back in the form that we expect him to. A lot of things can happen, but I did decide to trade him. What really hurt, though, is the fact that I had English basically locked in as my trade-in target for him, and he went sort of cocoa bananas, didn't he? And almost becomes a must-have in himself as that forward option, Timmy English. But it is what it is. I decided to hold on to him and did bring another bloke in instead. Nathan O'Driscoll, Noddy, my man, who I'll talk about in a minute anyway. Cogs 96. Yep, great. We've all got him. Is he going to be a keeper? I think that's going to be borderline. A little bit inconsistent for my liking, but he's going at, 97.6. We'll definitely take that, particularly from the starting price that we paid for Cogs. Now, Matty Rao, I'll keep this one simple. Going to go into a lot of detail in the stock market video. And this may be obvious, but you've got two options here. You either flip now. You get out of Dodgeville now, because what he's showing us at the moment is that he's got basically no outside game. Whenever he gets the ball, he's got a heap of pressure on him. Things just aren't looking good at the moment for Rao. So that's one thing. You just get out of Dodgeville and trade up or you trade down. The second thing that you can do is that you hold the faith and wait, hope or pray, whatever you want to do, for one of those big spike games, and that'll get his price starting to rise again. We've seen what he can do in round one. He's got another 150 in him, I think. When's that going to be? I'm not too sure. But at this stage, I think that I'm going to hold on to him. But either way, whichever way you want to go, I completely understand. But I'll talk a lot more about him in the stocky. Dacos have all got. The brilliant thing with him now is that he's got that DPP status. He's a defensive mid. Unfortunately, I don't really have a swing. I do with Hewitt and Whitfield, but they're on field. I'd love to have a rookie option, such as the man I'll talk about in a minute, Noddy, already in my defensive line. But yeah, I'll be able to do that when I trade one of these rookies out anyway, so that's okay. Horne Francis was just clanger city from him this week. Nothing he touched turned to gold. It was quite the opposite, but I think you probably just hold on to him up until the buys. Again, that cash gen in the short term will be halted a little bit, but if you are planning like me to hold him as long as you can, I think that that's going to be okay. We saw a 90 from him last week, for example, so I'm not panicking on Horne Francis. Now, this man, O'Driscoll, I'm going to go into great detail because I've got, a lot of notes. When I was taking my notes for this game, I've got my little notepad that I do, sometimes on the computer, but I had my notepad for this one, and I had my, Noddy section. I'd given him, allocate him a little bit of the page, and I tell you what, I need a lot more room because there were so many positive things that I saw from this bloke. From those little left foot darts, the goal assists, to getting some of that contested pill. Yeah, he's a great type size. He's dangerous around goal. There's so much to like about this pick, and unfortunately, he is a big miss if you didn't get onto him. 238,000 at the moment, another 100k to make. 200s in his price cycle, or 200 plus in his price cycle at the moment. Just a phenomenal player, and someone I am wrapped that I brought in. He was a man that basically covered for Cripper this week, so I got 103 out of him. Let's just say if I was expecting 125 from Cripps, or I'm only losing about 20 points there, which I can live with, being able to keep Cripper at the same time. So absolutely wrapped with this bloke. Would be nice if he was in my defensive line, but he's there for the moment. Will be an easy flip, as I said, when someone goes. Joshy Ward, I am losing patience with this bloke. Similar to Rao in a way, I'm just waiting for that big spike game because I've seen it in the preseason. He's a talented type player. A 65 for what he's produced so far this season is actually a pretty decent type score for him, but he is certainly potentially on the chopping block for me this week, depending on the moves that I make. I've just been disappointed with him, and yet with him and Rao, I made some major changes in my side basically to fit these two blokes in. I had Heaney at the time in my forward line, dropped him for Rao, and then moved a few other things around for Josh Ward, and it has hurt me a little bit, but he's a very highly owned player. It'll be interesting to see what people do with him. As I said, losing patience at a rapid rate with him. Conor Mcdonald, well, he's been gifted DPP status, which may save him from being traded out in a few sides. Question marks, if you're looking to trade one of them out, well, who do you trade out? Well, with Ward, you're making more money. In the bank, you'll have an extra 40-odd K. With McDonald, you haven't made much, have you? You haven't made much with Ward either. That's your trouble with trading out. these type of blokes, they just haven't made near enough money to be able to do it. But at the same time, if you believe that the players you're bringing in, such as an O'Driscoll, and if you had to go on Ward or McDonald to O'Driscoll last week, you'd still be wrapped with that. It is okay in some circumstances, depending on who you bring in. Yeah, it's very much team dependent with these two, but yeah, I'm not wrapped with them. At least I haven't got them on field. And that's what was really important to bring O'Driscoll in this week, to be able to cover for Cripps, because I just don't want these two covering. So I suppose it's not the worst thing actually having O'Driscoll there, to be quite honest. Into the rucks. So again, this is... Can I make this bigger? I think... I went smaller. Sorry. I'll make this bigger. There we go. So... Brody Grundy, I tell you what, this is so frustrating, isn't it? I swore at the end of last year, I'm not going to start Brody Grundy, but then I thought, well, he's probably the safest ruck going into 2022. He has underdelivered, hasn't he? But what we need to remember is the fact that last week he was averaging about 108 to 110. It wasn't going all that bad, you know. Things were okay-ish with Grundy. With this bad score, it sticks in our minds. There's certainly not a lot to like. Don't get me wrong. I'm getting itchy trade fingers when it comes to this selection, but I'm going to keep the faith for now. It is a really, really bad week, don't get me wrong. One thing we do need to keep in mind, though, is the fact that he's coming up against Essendon this week. His break-even's around 150. In 2 out of his last 3 matches, he has gone 150 plus against this mob. So, I can see why you want to trade him, but I'm going to hold him for at least this one more week, and just hope that history is on his side and on my side. I'm not wrapped owning him, though, because you look at Gawn, who's going off at the moment. I traded him out of my side, but I brought Wits in. We'll talk about him in a sec. Timmy English is going off at this stage. It does hurt having a 53 on field. But again, a lot of coaches own him. Most of the teams that I'm coming up against in leagues all have Brody Grundy. Very rare to see him not at R1 or R2 at this stage. So it is what it is. We're all suffering with that score of 53. Jared Witts, you know, my pottish type ruck, an 88 after a 150 plus was pretty disappointing. Had a pretty nice start to the game, was on 30 plus after the first quarter. Halfway into the second quarter, I think he was on about a 45, then may have lost points for the rest of that quarter and didn't do much in the second half, unfortunately. But 88, it's still not a terrible type score, particularly when we look at what Grundy's doing for me with his bloody 53 this week. So still a little bit of coin to make, hopefully. But yeah, he may sort of tap out at about 500. But my plan's probably still to keep him for a little while. Dixon a 54, that's okay. Still got money to make there. 216k. He's gone up over 100k for us, which is nice. I wanted probably a 65 from him. 10 points under. It is what it is. Josh Dunkley, he's under-delivering, isn't he, with only 100. But if we look at the average, 109.2, we can live with that. Not really going to talk about him. We've all got him. Isaac Heaney, 112. What was frustrating about this, and some people say he's been scaled really well, which I agree with in the last couple of weeks, don't get me wrong. But I'll tell you what, I don't know what Horse did. If he just said, let's just put the Q in the rack with Heaney. Don't risk him. He's one of those players. We know he's got that weird durability type risk with him. He can just do weird things to injure himself, similar to Lockie Whitfield. Let's just put him on ice. We've got the game won. I don't know if that was a fact, but he spent basically, I think it was 14 minutes, basically all the rest of the fourth quarter off. So I don't know exactly what happened there. Some people did comment, because I went, not on a Twitter rant, I just put a tweet out there, Horse, I'm getting frustrated, mate. What the hell are you doing type stuff. A couple of people mentioned, well, you know, there hasn't been an opportunity for him to come on, but I did look back at when the goals were actually kicked, and there was a few opportunities for him to come on. You know, after he'd been off for about 6 minutes, another goal was kicked. There's an opportunity there to get him on. I think it was a move that was made on purpose by the coaching staff. So that was frustrating. But again, 112, yeah, magnificent. 122.4 for an average. So I'm wrapped that I'm a Heaney owner at the moment. And this man, Zachy Butters, did bounce back. Just looked electric. Back to his bouncy type best. In and out of everything. Just, yeah, wrapped. And a lot of people, when I say a lot of people, I think there are about 3,000 to 4,000 teams actually traded him out this week. And that would hurt. You had to keep the faith with Zach Butters. We've seen what he's can do round 1 and round 2. Copped a bit of a knock. Didn't look himself the last couple of weeks, but was damaging in the middle, up forward as well, hit the scoreboard Lovely game from Butters, wrapped as an owner. And talk about wrapped as an owner, well, I reckon Hewitt's probably been my best starting selection, but this bloke, if not my best starting selection, is a really close second, sorry. I always do that when I get to about this section of the video, don't I? Start mincing my words. I think it's a sign to start finishing up. But Will Brody, magnificent, a 94. Look, he didn't go 100 plus, but you know, anything 90 plus from this man is absolutely fantastic. And I think it's pretty safe to say now, because I have been watching him closely, does have elite hands up there with the best in the competition. The absolute elite in the competition when it comes to using your hands. That sounds wrong, doesn't it? But handballs I'm talking about here. Balls, no, okay, you know what I'm talking about here. Don't get weird on me. I'm getting weird to myself. Let's just skip what I was going to say there. But yeah, it loves to handball and really, really good at it. And just a really solid player. I underrated him, I think, Will Brody. And I think even when some of these players come back, he's done enough to earn himself that spot for now, I think. Keeper, yes, no. At the moment, yes. What will happen mid-stage, latter stages of the season, I'm not too sure. He's probably going to be maybe a luxury upgrade for us as well. And having that DPP status, you can swing him into your midfield for a while, keep him up forward, do whatever you want to do with him. Absolutely fantastic, Will Brody. Cherry really bounced back this week. Again, some coaches did trade him out after a poor score, but he bounced back. Really consistent type game from him. Just kept the score ticking over. 100 plus is fantastic. Now with DPP, it's pretty tempting, to be honest, to chuck Grundy on the bench, swap him for Dixon and play him on field in my rucks, and maybe bring Rochelle in. I certainly won't do that. But again, this opens up loops and options for us, having him with that new DPP. So it's a bloke that you just got to have, I think. Nicky Martin, again, now we find him with DPP. He's a mid-forward, and he's going to be a really handy swing. Making money like there's no tomorrow. Almost has made us 150k in the matter of a couple of price rises. So he'll just continue to go up. A really solid on-field option. Rochelle, 49 this week. Yeah, good, bad, a bit of a mixed bag. I think I mentioned this last week, but just if you can, use him as a bit of a loop. In saying that, though, the loop would have been Jack Hayes this week if you had to choose between the two. So I'm running pretty deep, aren't I, in my forward line at the moment, having Hayes there at the moment. But with Hayes, obviously, Ryder's due to come back, not this week, but the next. What happens to him? Surely he's got to play, doesn't he? Did Wood injure himself? I think Wood may have injured himself on the weekend. So does he get Wood spot? I don't even know what he did or how serious it is. It may not even be that serious, but surely he's got to keep his spot. I don't know, though. I wouldn't be surprised to see him play when Ryder comes back in. At the same time, I wouldn't be surprised to see him dropped again. So that's just unfortunate. Massive ceiling, though. Love the Hayes selection. So that is the team. So now quickly, captains this week. I think that I'm just going to vice-captain Jack McCrae. I think he's got the second game. And then I think I might just go out again now. And then Lockie Neal, or do I go with Toot Miller? I don't think so. Probably in current form, I'll go with Lockie Neal as my captain. But trades for this week. So originally I was on the Bruce train, but I have been having a good conversation with Dazza, and that's Daryl Hall. Great supporter of the channel. Always love having a conversation with you, Daryl, and David as well on Twitter. So I was talking about getting Bruce in this week for yada yada, this player, and he said, well, I'm actually going to hold off Bruce and maybe look to get Hayes in my side next week. This is Hayes from Port. Gave us a 75. I'm a bit concerned about his tank. Was really struggling to get around the ground, but pretty good in the ruck contest there. And all of a sudden I'm thinking to myself, well, do you know what? That could be a half-decent option. But at the same time, Braden Bruce, he's got a negative break even in the 90s. So it's tough to know what to do. Now, I said I'm losing patience with Ward. So maybe I trade him out, use a bit of DPP magic, and bring Braden Bruce in for Ward. So what I will do is, can I go down here? Hopefully I can. Oh, what's happening? I might edit this part out if I'm loading, but wait, oh, you wouldn't believe it. Wait, should I exit the page? Or wait, I'm exiting. Oh, All right, we're back, but I tell you what, I've tried 3 or 4 times to complete this trade. I don't know if there's a technical error here, or else it could be a big sign from the Supercoach God saying, DR, don't make any trades this week. It is going to come back to bite in the butt. So I'm not going to try to do it again, but I'll quickly explain what I was looking to do. So Ward was going to go out. I was going to bring Rochelle into my midfield using some DPP magic. Then there'd be a free spot here. Dixon would come into my forward line. Braden Preuss would come in. Or else the other option I've got this week, again, Ward can come out. Rochelle into the forward line, into the midfield. And then I've got a Malcolm Roses who's going to be on the bubble, giving us an average of around 73, 74 from memory. Certainly an option that we can bring into our sides this week. Or else, look, I could trade out a Matty Rowell if I decide to go that way. I could get rid of, again, a Ward, a Hinge, a Chapman using some DPP. One of these blokes could go to a Preuss. Ward, all these 2 guys here could also go to a Roses. There's a few options that we've got up our sleeves, so I don't know exactly where I'm going to go this week. I'll probably let you know in the stock market video if I've decided by then. I still may be undecided, but apart from that, guys, I'm going to leave it there. I don't even know how long it's gone for, but it was much longer than the 10 to 15 minutes that I always plan on doing. I'm a bit of a rambler. Apologies for that, but hopefully enjoyed it anyway. So all the best luck for this week, guys. I'll see you soon in the stocky, and probably even sooner in my Q&A session. Put all your questions down below and I will answer them in the next video. So much peace, much love. Hope that you're well. Happy Easter. I'll see you soon in the next one. Cheers, guys. Bye.